pretty early on that the game was fun to play. People were excited about it.
The most rewarding part of it is just seeing people react to it.
We knew that we were onto something.
It was such a shock to see this game. I was like, I can't believe this game exists.
It became something that added to the mystique of Mortal Kombat.
We're showing you a part of a world that is much larger.
There was no template to make the games. It's a bit of the Wild West.
Every part of that game is an expression of who we were and what we wanted to do. We knew pretty early on that the game was fun to play.
It became something that added to the mystique of Mortal Kombat.
The biggest wins I've had with Square. Wait times have reduced by 50% since adding Square to our business. Square is big in restaurants. Coffee Angel is big in Dublin. Visit square.com to learn more.
What's up, everyone? Mitchell Sussman, and I'm here with Steven Frost of Digital Clips,
Yes.
and we're here checking out the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. So, right off the bat, do players have a choice of what version of each game they can play?
So the core product, there's over 20 different Mortal Kombat games in this collection, and the primary focus are the original arcade games, so MK2, Ultimate MK3, MK3, and MK4. And then along the way, we're doing a large number of the home ports across both console and handheld, even including some of the more obscure platforms like the 32X and the Game Gear, which we haven't emulated before for the most part. So the main goal of that and why we're trying to include such a large and diverse number of Mortal Kombat games is because depending on who you are, you probably grew up playing a different Mortal Kombat game. You have the different nostalgia for different games. So for one person, the Game Boy version of Mortal Kombat, like, why would you include the Game Boy in Mortal Kombat? But I know personally a lot of people who grew up and that was the version of Mortal Kombat they had. They played it day in and day out. And so our job as sort of preservationists and trying, our task of trying to bring as many of these older games to modern platforms as all, that was our task here. Is like, let's try to get as many of these Mortal Kombat games up and running under emulation and then released so that you can play in all the modern systems, including, now you can play Super Nintendo, Genesis, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy 32X, Game Gear, the arcade games.
But it's not just a collection, right? There's an interactive documentary that's part of the game. Can you tell us a little bit about all of the, like, what is this documentary? Is it brand new footage?
Right.
Is it, did you go to NetherRealm and talk to them for this game?
Yes, so with all of our collections now, what we feel as a studio is that if you just throw a bunch of games into a collection, it will appeal, the nostalgia will appeal to fans, but if you aren't necessarily interested or you're more of a casual fan, without providing sort of the context or historical importance of it, less people will be more interested into it. This is something we've really established over the years and really hit home with Atari 50th Anniversary Celebration, which was a big collection that we released a few years back that focused on Atari from the beginning to where it is now. And a lot of people didn't necessarily grow up with Atari or the 2600 or those old systems, but we got a lot of emails after the fact saying like, hey, I didn't grow up with this, but I loved how you did the presentation and the behind the scenes content and how you shared how important these games were and why you should care about them. And it made me a fan of Atari in these games. And that's a win-win because it expands the Atari fan base, right? And so for Mortal Kombat, it's a similar approach. we want to make sure that while we cater and definitely, keep the hardcore fans in mind, we also want to bring in all those casual Mortal Kombat fans. And some of the ways we do that is that we can dive deep into the background and behind the scenes content for these games and really explain sort of the inspiration and how the genesis of these titles came to be, and really the impact that they had on not only the fighting game genre, but just video games in general. So we got the privilege of going to NetherRealm Studios some months back, and we ended up interviewing a large number of people. In fact, for the collection, I think we interviewed almost 25 different people from a variety of different aspects of life. And it netted us about almost 3 hours of new documentary footage in there. And it's been amazing to be able to even go back and bring the 4 original team members who created the first original Kombat and have them sit down and reminisce and talk about those early days and how they were just a group of 20-year-olds trying to do something cool, and that their love for martial arts and action movies, caused them to just want to make an experience like that. So we really went in, we dug deep, we interviewed and talked to a lot of people. We went through the NetherRealm archives for source material. All these projects take a lot of archaeological exploration and finding out, did you work on this game back in the day? Did you marketing for it? Did you do PR for it? Did you keep all this stuff? Where could I find it? Where's the source code for this? These are all the things that we really pursue in order to be able to dig up as much of the ingredients of the story as we can, so that we can sit down and say, okay, what is the story that we're going to tell? It's a little bit different than other games. Oftentimes, a normal, typical game is a design is created, and then it goes from there and the game is created. We have to gather all the puzzle pieces and the elements and the assets. And as we go through, then the story starts to come together and we figure it out. So that was really important to us. And it was really key to not only share the influence of Mortal Kombat on the world, but also how it's evolved and sort of what went through the minds and hearts of the development team as they kind of progress from like the early Mortal Kombat to later. So a lot of wealth of content here. Similarly to our past releases, we are wrapping it up in what we call an interactive timeline presentation. So players will be able to chronologically go through and view the history of Mortal Kombat through documents, artwork, photos, screenshots, and gameplay, and then understand by the end, what were these games about, and learn about all the key aspects, all the secrets, and everything about these games and what made them so popular.
That's awesome. You mentioned game preservation, which I think is something that's so important. And with Mortal Kombat, it's actually kind of tragic because there was a collection released, I think in like the 2010s, that is no longer available on Steam or on PlayStation. It was taken off the stores. Do you envision this to kind of stick around and be the way that people can experience those older Mortal Kombat games from now till however long?
Yeah, we love that. We strive for that. We're always sort of thinking about the future and trying to pack as much into these games so that even like 5, 6, 7 years, whatever years from now, you can pull it off the shelf and you can still enjoy the experience. In some of our past collections, we even think about it from a exploratory or like researcher perspective. Like we did a Turtles, the TMNT collection, the Cowabunga collection, and we had so many assets in that we actually built a search engine so that in the future, if someone were going to explore and learn about turtles, or we're going to write an article about turtles, they could go and say, how often does the turtle blimp appear on the covers of this comic and things like that. And you can actually search that up in the game itself. And so we're always thinking about from the standpoint of like preservation, or people are going to want to pull it off and write about it or talk about it, and what can we do to make sure that players' abilities to be able to play these games for as long as possible on all these systems, how can we extend that and how we can keep that going? So we work, all the studios we work with, all the teams we work with have that preservation mindset in mind. And what makes me feel happy is our impact in working with these people, and even people who haven't worked with us, we get a lot of emails, people calling us saying like, hey, I know I haven't worked with Digital Clips, and we aren't, but we know we will in the future, so we're going to start preserving stuff now, so that 2 or 3 years from now, when we work together, we'll have those videos. And that's an amazing thing to have happen, and it's a big shift of an industry which was more focused about the now, and not necessarily future thinking about like, okay, maybe 10 years from now, maybe 20 years from now, maybe 40 years from now, we're going to want to release these games again. Not necessarily just from a financial perspective, but also to reinforce to the audience then, the new audience, where this industry came from and the importance of games that built out the foundation for all these genres and types of games. there's a lot of lessons to be learned from those founding games and those early games. And we want to make sure that people learn from that and the industry builds from that moving forward.
You announced recently Mortal Kombat Trilogy is joining the collection. There's a couple other Mortal Kombat games around that time that I haven't noticed as part of the collection,
Right.
namely Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero and I think Mortal Kombat Special Forces. Are those, they're not really fighting games, but they are still part of the Mortal Kombat kind of, universe. Was there a discussion to bring those games in, or?
I mean, we spend a lot of time, there's a lot of thought that goes into deciding the games that we include. And normally for us, we try to include as many games as we can. And generally the only reasons that we don't include them are either technological or like emulation-based issues, licensing maybe issues, or legal issues. So we try to include as many as we can. We have said that there are a number of games that we have not announced yet.
Oh, okay.
Mortal Kombat Trilogy is the first of unannounced games that we revealed
So there's
now.
still hope.
There's still hope for a variety of games. We have a couple stops. The next stop is Gamescom overseas, and then we have PAX. And so we'll be revealing more information about the game, as well as those additional secret games in the weeks and months ahead.
All right, same deal with the 3D era Mortal Kombat, Deadly Alliance, Deception, or are you trying to keep it more focused towards the real classic MK experience?
Yeah, I will say that fundamentally we're trying to stay focused in that arcade era because we have to start the story somewhere. And obviously, Mortal Kombat, there's a huge number of fans for like Mortal Kombat 9, things like that. But you can't just jump immediately to Mortal Kombat 9, especially from our studio's perspective of telling the story from the beginning and then moving forward. It's important for us to build a foundation of where this franchise came from and then build from there. And hopefully this release is as successful as we hope it will be, and that paves the way for potentially more and more Mortal Kombats in the future.
What's something about this collection that you personally are really excited about that maybe is not just about the games? It's not the documentary. You're like excited about just kind of the overall presentation, or what's something about this game that you're really excited about?
So for me, and it's illustrated but more for the audience, is that we spend a lot of time with quality of life improvements for the games from the standpoint that all of the secrets are very easily accessible. Part of the challenge and what made Mortal Kombat so great were all of its secrets, and they really built upon that over the years. But from a casual audience perspective, I can understand how it can be a bit intimidating, right? You go in, have I seen everything that this game has to offer? What does it take? I have to look up how to like unlock a character or unlock a menu.
Reptile or Ermac,
Exactly.
stuff like that,
So we wanted to simplify all of that and make them all options in the game. So instead of saying, like you were saying, I want to fight Reptile, you don't have to go online and figure out how to play Reptile. You can read about it in the collection, and then you can go to the options for Mortal Kombat, flip a switch that says Fight Reptile, and you'll jump immediately into it and fight Reptile. So we're doing that across the board. Obviously, everything we do primarily is optional. So if you want to unlock him and play him the normal way, you can. If you want to enter the codes for all the secret menus, you can. But if you are more of a casual or person who doesn't want to deal with that, you can just go in and flip the switch and enable that. And that's how we sort of cater to both markets. We give you the tools to play these games, you play them the way that you want to.
All right, well, that is Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. Thank you so much, Steven. And for more EVO 2025, keep it right here on IGN.